So good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of season 2 Almus Monthly Market Webisode series. My name is Maulik Shah, and I'm one of the co-founder and CEO of Almus Risk Consulting. At Almus, we serve corporates that are exposed to financial risk, namely currency, commodity, and interest rate risk. And given the audience that we have, especially the gems and jewelry sector, we serve the clients which has gold risk and the currency risk. So we are specialized in managing gold and the currency risk. I take this opportunity to welcome each and every one of you. It's been our commitment, our endeavor to spread the knowledge, the research that we have amongst the market participants. But what is really making it possible is your presence. And I see every month after month, what really brings us back to this monthly series is your presence and your participation. So indeed, thank you all very much for your participation. I also want to thank a very special people here. And I must say that we are really blessed, fortunate to have network of friends, well-wishers, experts, our esteemed clientels who are more than willing to share their insights on this platform. They are more than willing to participate in our cause. In the circles. And I know ED for the last, I think, more than 20 years, 2 decades. And those are the 2 decades where he has been very active in GJPC. In fact, to an extent that ED name is synonymous with GJPC. For the last 20 years, he has been working tirelessly. He has been an influential force in shaping policy, representing concerns of G&J sector to the government of India. In fact, he has a long list of achievements. I'm not going to say all of that. But one thing which I really connect very well is really taking the IIJS show at the world map. And today, we all are really proud to say that IIJS is the second largest. ED, is that so? Second largest in the world. And he's the one who has been front leading this entire efforts. And I must say that brand GJPC today is a globally respected trade body, and he has a lot, to contribute. He has really taken that made the big contributions in making the one. So welcome, ED, to this special session for the G&J sector. And the another speaker, Mr. Bobby Kothari. Again, I will say there is no one, and I'm making that statement, Bobby Bhai, with your permission, there's no one in the G&J circle, especially SEEPs, who will not know you. You have been the visionary leader, especially for the SEEPs, SEZ manufacturing companies. Jewelex today is one of the leading manufacturer and exporter of jewelry. The recipient of Top Exporter Award in 2024 from GJPC. Jewelex has also earned the distinction as one of the India's best places to work for 2 consecutive years. And one more, hear this very well, even they have received India's best place to work for women. I'm going to add a few lesser known facts, Bobby Bhai, again with your permission. The Jewelex group is, all the units of Jewelex manufacturing units are carbon neutral since 2021. The group is committed to sustainable and inclusive business practices. The company aims to have, again very unusual, aims to have 10% of its workforce comprised of hearing and speech impaired individuals. Currently, they are already at 4%. And Bobby Bhai personally believes that Jewelex is made of ordinary people giving extraordinary results. And here we are fortunate to have extraordinary leader amongst us. Welcome, Bobby Bhai.
Thank you. Very kind of you for the introduction.
Pleasure. And I'm going to just set the background for today's session. The theme is roadmap to current account surplus. Now, all of us know, who are the market participants, that India has been traditionally a current account deficit country, unlike China, which is a trade surplus. Now, what it really takes for us to become the export surplus. When I say deficit, export minus import, we are negative. Now, as part of our initiative in the current season, which started in April 2024, we have been picking up various sectors as an alternate episode. And I'll just elaborate that further. So we had E2, which is episode 2 of the current financial year, current season 2, where we talked about GCC, Service Exports Potential. And that is a global capability centers. And to a great pleasant, as an observation, since then, what we have been hearing is almost every alternate days, you see some of the other news on the GCC front. And India has been at really the forefront of being a leader in the GCC centers. And that's really doing great. That was E2. In E4, we picked up defense as a sector, looked at the opportunity available there, and we are seeing a lot of initiatives from the government, from the enterprise on import substitution, export growth, and a lot is happening in that front. E6 talked about, that is episode 6 talked about the textile export opportunity. Textile today is about $30 to $40 billion industry, and what it takes to really accelerate the export there. And in this today's webinar, we will be focusing on G&J export potential, what it really takes for India to be the leadership in the global manufacturing of the jewelry. Now, before I invite both the speakers, I'm going to put certain numbers in the context. And I know those numbers will have to be viewed differently for the retail and for the manufacturing industry. And I'm going to clarify soon. Here we are just putting some numbers as a reference for us to keep it as a as a context for the deliberations in the next 40-45 minutes. The global retail industry, which is a retail level, is close to about $400 billion. And all these numbers are subject to corrections. Please don't quote me. Just a number for reference. India's contribution to the global retail is close to about 20%, which is about $80-85 billion. Now, let's carve out a diamond jewelry. The diamond jewelry retail is close to about $80 billion. And India retail diamond jewelry is close to about $5 to $6 billion, less than 10% share in the global retail. Now, all of this are the retail level. Now, let me come to the manufacturing side, and I'm going to talk about the numbers, which are the export numbers from India to the global jewelry and industry. And that's where we are going to focus on for the rest of the time in today's session. We have an export of close to about $10 billion. And when I say $10 billion, $5 billion studded, $5 billion plain gold jewelry. So that's a $10 billion industry as far as exports are concerned at the manufacturing price. Now, one fact which we all know, diamond cutting and manufacturing, polishing, India has established its leadership. And when it comes to jewelry manufacturing, we are nowhere even close to that. When you look at the global jewelry manufacturing potential, that's an uncut potential that we are talking about. I'm going to invite first ED and then Bobby Bhai to really deliberate and give their opening remarks on why we have not really been able to achieve. And I'm mindful of the fact that probably we are comparing apple to orange, but to put the things in context, why we haven't really achieved the leadership position the way we have probably achieved it in diamond industry. Over to you, ED.
Thank you, Maulik. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the introduction of the sector also, and thank you the way you have put up. See, you have to understand that where we stand as India. Now, India, if we all understand, is that India is one of the largest powerhouses in terms of consumption of plain gold jewelry. Because for a long time, of course, China had overtaken us, and now again we have overtaken China in terms of consumption of gold jewelry or consumption of gold throughout the world. We're the largest consumer of gold. We have a huge appetite for plain gold jewelry. And in terms of that, if you look at the, the comparate figures, we are, maybe the 5th to 6th largest manufacturer in the world in terms of jewelry. And you are right when you are stating that, of course, in diamond jewelry, we are not there. But why we are not there, there is a background, Of course, when we have long history of having one of the largest iconic diamonds in India, etc. But before liberalization, we were only exporting plain gold diamonds. The loose diamonds. Because at that point of time, the jewelry exports was, of course, we always tell that it all started from $25 million only, and we have reached now more than $10 billion. So if you look at the journey, so at that point of time, when the liberalization happened, then only, the diamond jewelry export started picking up. And if we all remember, After 1991, the seeps came into being at 1993 or something like that. And that point of time, we used to tell in Gem and Jewelry Export Promotion Council that you should forward integrate. In fact, Bobby Bhai, who is here, he is also a child of that forward integration, what we have talked. All the diamond cutting and polishing companies who were there in India at that point of time, they saw a great potential or great opportunity into jewelry. They were the first one to recognize it. And based on that, if you all remember, that is the time when the gem and jewelry industry took over an electronic processing zone and we converted it to the seeps. And after that, of course, Sitapur looked manufactured items, because that point of time it was a taboo, that okay, if we write made of India, maybe the sellability of the jewelry may go down, or the brands also, they cannot have that mark there. So we were just a job worker sort of a thing at that point of time. But then we started picking up from there, in terms of design, in terms of the state of the art manufacturing and etc. And as a country also, our country's perception of the world as a country also changed. And then we graduated ourselves to Made in India tag. So after that, the Made in India tag started taking in. And then if you all remember that, at one point in time, Indian, manufacturers, we had a program. If you remember how we converted that to Made in India tab, is that again, Bobby Bhai was also part of that, was the Indo-Argyle diamond promotion, because when the Rio Tinto came in and then they started manufacturing as Indian manufacturers and the servicing, etc., all these things. So as branding, Indian manufacturers of diamonds and diamond jewelry started, in my opinion, from Indo-Argyle diamond promotion, that project. After that, then of course, we started supplying to the retailer. GAPC took a lot of programs like bringing all those retailers there. Our people also started having their offices in US and etc. And slowly this whole perception changed. But a country, how it moves, if you also look into this, that first, you remain just as a job worker, then you become a manufacturing, that means you start getting recognized as manufacturers. The third level, how it started is that, of course, you should be also having domestic consumption. Now, third level also is how a country gets, or maybe a brand gets recognition. The third level is the retail. So Indian retail started picking up. The organized retail was not there at all. It started picking up from 2000 onwards, and then it exploded. Basically, now when you see organized retail, if I still remember, when we were promoting through KPMG, it was less than 5% or something like that in 2000s and etc. Now it is around 35 to 40% in India's organized retail. And once you get organized retail, these retails have already started, taking wings into UAE and now to other countries, advanced countries, London, USA, all these countries, the Indian retail has started, spreading their wings. So as a retail brand, that is the third level, that is a retail brand, we have started just, taking the baby step forward. And that is where, once we get recognized as a retail brand, the fourth level will start, when we, of course, have that branded jewelry, we call it the super luxury brands, whether it is, you can name Cartier and etc. If we have to reach in that level, you require a lot of, so again, in India, the luxury has started growing in. So this is where it all comes from, is that if your domestic consumption grows, then the manufacturer become bold enough to spread their wings abroad, because in the end of the day, you can test those products in the local market, and from there you can get the capital, you can get the wherewithal to test your products abroad. That is what is my opinion, and which has already started in India, and things have started changing, but it will only change when the retail brands grow. And after that, of course, we need to understand how the branded jewelry, value-added jewelry can get, and then only your manufacturing can go to that level, the value level where you are telling. So it is a value game. So we have already reached the mass game, but we have to reach the value game. to reach the value game, that is what we have to just, last link, in my opinion, to bridge. If we can bridge that link, then of course we are there.
Edie, you made a couple of very interesting points, and I'm just going to repeat that. One, very importantly, you talked about the phased evolution of an Indian market itself, from a job worker to manufacturing to domestic consumption. And maybe the next level to go to is the branded one. And how important it is for a domestic market to be so strong. And we will talk about that further in detail. And we all know, and we all are witnessing the kind of, the vibrancy that is there in the local domestic market. And the impact thereof on the international penetration. And the last piece that you talked about, from a mass game to a value-added game. I think very important point. Let's hear from Bobby Bhai, your perspective, Bobby Bhai.
Yeah. So I would agree with what Edie mentioned about the evolution. But I'm going to focus on the export part of it at the moment. And I think enough has been shared about the evolution and then about the local market. So first of all, I'd like to say that, while diamond, we have such a large share, and I'd like to congratulate all our diamond brothers for, we're probably the only industry where India holds such a large percentage of the business. And I think we're doing a similar job in the lab grown material part of it. However, my point will be that both businesses are very different. One is the yarn business and one is the suit business. So one is a raw material business and one is the finished product business. Both require very, very different skills. And while our diamond brothers and sisters have done a wonderful job in terms of getting the diamond in every way, whether it's the innovation, technology, cost, I think pretty much from the low end to high end, we can definitely take many learnings as a jewelry fraternity from them. I'd like to, I believe that our positioning in the jewelry business, we are kind of in between. So when I think of it like a sandwich, so we are having a large part of the share in the mid segment. When I say the mid segment, it's more the commercial jewelry and maybe slightly few companies pushing into luxury. But by and large, I think we have almost no presence in the entire luxury segment. And when I say luxury segment, think of it that a Cartier, Tiffany, or a Van Cleef, Bulgari, even a David Yurman, or even brands which are still emerging to that level, say a Messica, where we are starting to have share, we as a jewelry fraternity. But by and large, in this space, there is almost negligible penetration from our entire industry. And I do feel that it requires a very different mindset and very different skill set to penetrate this part of the business. So that's the top part of the sandwich, which we are missing. We are in the middle. And then I do believe the bottom part, which is the low end mass scale. So let's take an example. When I say low end, doesn't mean low quality. I just mean low end in terms of the price point. So say somebody like a Pandora, if you Google them, they publicly mention that they produce more than 100 million pieces of jewelry. It could be silver, it could be plain, could be studded, doesn't matter. Just compare that with Seeps, probably would be, and my guess, would be producing about 25 million pieces as all of Seeps. So I do feel that this business, and Pandora is just an example. China has a large part of the share in the lower end of the market where, just a single company or a couple of companies will produce, 1 lakh bracelets in lab grown and silver, for example, from China. I don't think Indian companies in the Indian fraternity have that kind of scale. So I think that business is all about scale, maybe part automation, different thought process, cost with a lot more focus on that, consistency. And in the luxury, the mindset is very different. You have a lot of innovation, a lot of differentiation in design, amazing engineering. So I think both these segments is where we are underpenetrated. We're relatively strong. I don't think we are the only players in the center, but we are a large player in the center, but we are missing both these elements.
So compare that with the other centers that you talked about, Bobby, by let's say China. And if we have to really pick few things and for us to understand and learn, what are those things which are really there, which we don't have, or something that we can look forward to as a key learning point?
From them?
From them.
I think there are many things. I would say, first of all, their focus on consistency is tremendous. Focus on cost. They're structured in quite a different way than how we are structured. So they will have very large factories, and then they will have the dormitory right as a part of the premise. So there's no travel time. People are focused. They're pretty much living there. So their method is very different. They use, I think, a tremendous amount of engineering, and I believe it comes from the ecosystem. So even in the low end, the kind of product and the kind of engineering and the consistency I feel is amazing. And they're going all the way till the better end and the luxury segment as well. So I do feel maybe whether it's the ecosystem that is helping, because China as a whole has got incredible engineering, whether you look at, whether it's the electronic industries, the auto industry. So I guess the talent pool or the knowledge is already there. Applying it to the jewelry industry, I do believe a lot of them using automation also to a pretty significant effect there. But I do believe that if we have to grow the jewelry pie to an extent of becoming, say, the leading player and not just, let's say, one of the key, I mean, we are still a key player, but if we have to become the player, I think we'll have to penetrate both these segments and individually learn from them.
So coming to ED, and I'm just picking up the points that Bobby Bhai talked about. Given that we know the potential, and given that we are also structurally evolving as a country from a unorganized to an organized retail, and a very strong local consumption, which is a facilitator and an enabler. Looking at the competitive landscape as a council, and I'm sure there are many initiatives which council has been taking, which are some of these which really facilitates a faster and accelerated pace of growth when it comes to a jewelry manufacturing area. Some of those that ED would want to talk about.
Just what Bobby Bhai mentioned, I want to, of course, on everything, whatever we do, the comparison of China comes. And when we all started, US is still now the largest, studded jewelry market in the world. And of course, everybody is trying to target US. And China has its own advantage at that point of time, because from Hong Kong, if you're exporting, so the mainland China used to manufacture, as Bobby Bhai has told, the precision was there, the regimentation was there, the large manufacturing was there, and they were also getting 1% duty advantage from Hong Kong if they're exporting. It was there, and India had the GSP advantage. And the entire, the whole your Thebes export built up its whole capability and its exports in US market based on this GSP advantage. If you all remember, we reached right at that, I think in 2005-6, we have reached some $3 billion. And after that, when around 2.5 or $3 billion, and after that, when GSP benefits were withdrawn, we just zoomed down to 900 million or something. And again, now we have started picking up and etc. And of course, you have to pick up in comparison with China, because you have to take the business out of China only if you study jewelry manufacturing. At one point in time, we were not able to compete, but right now, I think we are there to compete. But the biggest advantage over China, what India has, of course, GATC always used to say this, is our network. You go to Antwerp, you go to New York, you go to anywhere in the world, the Indian jewelers network is much more stronger than China, and we are having a huge advantage into that. And this is one area what we have leveraged. So today, if you have told that, of course, IAJ is one of the largest players. Of course, I hear a lot that IAJ is a domestic fair and etc. But in the end of the day, if you see, you cannot name any big Indian jeweler in the world who is not coming to IAJs to source their jewelry. So that is one part of the chain when you look at. The second part, of course, they beyond ethnic jewelry, they're also, let's say Windies or etc. They're also taking in studded jewelry. So beyond that, we have also expanded. We have looked into US, and we have seen that one of the things what we have started doing long time back is buyer-seller meet. It's targeted buyer-seller meet, because we understand that definite buyers require definite products. So matchmaking, what we call, by buyer-seller meet, that is one thing which has helped us a huge way. We have done for US, we have done for Australia, we have done for East European countries, we have done for Russian countries. So that way, if you have seen, let's say we look at pre-2008 and after 2008. I'll just give you one fact only. If you look into that, from 2008 to 2018, we have grown our diamond exports exactly doubled. If you see, we have grown from 10 billion to 20 billion in those times, you know. So that is exactly when 2008, if you all remember that that crisis came, and then GJPC took that advantage and we expanded like anything. We took out shares from Israel and etc. and other countries. In the same way, you know, right now we are doing the same thing, that you have to take out from the China to grow there. That is one of the things. And this network, see, you cannot find that Chow Tai Fook or Chow Sang Sang is having their presence in international market the way our retailers are having. So that is another advantage what we are having. So generally speaking, the branding of India, how it is happening, that we all started in 2004 at GJPC, when we started saying that India not only makes jewelry for Indians, but India also makes jewelry for all kind of people. So in 2004, we came out with a campaign stating that our jewelry fits in all kind of skin, whether it's Caucasian or a white or a black and etc. That was the ad. And then we started telling the styling of the jewelry. So India is the one who styles the jewelry. And now we are talking that we are the ones who gives, you know, art form to your jewelry. So that way, this evolution and how India is branded, etc., in all forums, whether it's in the Kimberley process or in Sibjo forum, everywhere, you know, we started, you know, at least at the B2B level, we started pounding that this is India and this is where we are and this is what we are. So, and also it is helped by, of course, our back-end manufacturers, how they have evolved. So as GJPC, branding of India, or the branding of Indian jewelry is one of the things what we are successful. We are present at all major international exhibition. And if you have seen, GJP is the first one, we take them, let's say Vicenza, now Basel is not there, but in other, let's say JCK, etc., we are the one who first to start it. And then, of course, now if you see, you go to any fair, today you go to JCK, or you go to Hong Kong, or you go to Vicenza, etc. In my opinion, at least half to two-thirds is somewhat Indian connection is there. You know, you will see on the floor itself, maybe some 10 or 15 years back, you never used to see so much Indian, you know, stalls on the floor, whether they're coming from Thailand, whether they're coming from Belgium, or whether they're coming from India itself, or they are in the US itself. So that is one of the evolution what we've seen, and we have supported that evolution, that ultimately those international platforms of B2B platforms, wherever you are having, you should project as Indians, as Indian jewelry, and it can come from different part of the world. Ultimately, it will get manufactured in India to an extent or majority of them. So that is one GJP's success is in this platform, the recognition of India, whether it is the fair platform, the international fair platform, Indian fair platform, and also international forums. You can find India in the board level, in whether it is in International Colored Gemstone Association or World Diamond Council, or you see in WFDB or in Sibjo. So we are in the policy making there. So we have seen that policies which has taken, that is not against Indian kind of jewelry or against Indian interests. In fact, just now also we are working with the G7, etc. We are working together with the international arena. And it has helped, you know, what Bobby Ray has told. And also we know that gems and jewelry is, we are the absolute leaders in the world. We started with diamonds, gemstones, and then we are now spreading our wings into jewelry. So that leadership status also have helped to have our voice heard there. And once the voice is heard and India is taken notice, and once you start, you know, getting the notice of other people, of course, you get the market there. So GJPC as brand India and as our voice reaching there where it matters, that is what we have done, and automatically rest of the things our people have done.
Bobby bhai, just expanding on the same point, if there has to be an accelerated intervention, one is the market will evolve, country will evolve, and we will capture the opportunity. The other is active interventions to accelerate the process of this, grabbing this big opportunity that is there in front of us. What could that be? The interventions, that all we were to talk about.
I would say there's two ways we can look at the opportunities, and I see lots of them on the table, on the jewelry, wearing the jewelry lens. I'd say that, you know, when we look at larger companies, I think there is, and I'll talk about larger companies and mid to smaller companies, opportunities for both. I'd start with the larger companies. As larger companies, if you are following the news, then say the Trump administration has already announced that they will be levying massive duties on Mexico, Canada, and China. Now, to our interest in the jewelry business, Mexico, there's quite a few factories there taking advantage of the NAFTA. there could be easy opportunities to pick up business either by collaborating with some of those players or figuring it out, because India will remain um a favored nation in this strategy. There's talks of 10 to 15% additional duty on China. So once again, we are already seeing in the last year lots of um, companies quite nervous about a lot of concentration on China, or in this case, Mexico and China. So there could be two ways opportunities. I would say large companies using their business acumen. One is to say that we'll simply transfer the business. But I personally feel that's not enough. That's the obvious answer, that okay, business will come. You're just sitting here and the business will come. But why should it come to you? Why should it not go to a Thailand? Why should it not go to Vietnam? So I do feel that for the larger companies, probably acquiring some setups in China or Mexico or Thailand or Vietnam, I think is the opportunity. What I would not like to see companies doing is that, I have a large diamond business. Let's go to the jewelry business and let's see what our neighbor is doing and start making that. I don't think there's enough merit in that. There's only the downward spiral of pricing. If rather that large company thinks that, okay, let me acquire a talent which is different than what is currently going on and tap into opportunities. So that I would see as the first opportunity for large companies to either acquire talent, whether it's skills, whether it's innovation, whether it's engineering, relationships, whichever way, acquire that. I think Indian companies have the money, and unfortunately for these different countries, the chips are down for different reasons to our advantage. It's time for us to build on that. That I see as a massive opportunity. I would see the opportunity to collaborate. Uh, Sabyasachi and myself, we had the opportunity to visit the French embassy. In fact, the GGAPC had organized, where we are trying to say, how can we penetrate the luxury business? And to our pleasant surprise, I don't think our relationship with France has been better than it is now, ever. Because if you see the kind of business India is giving France in different sectors, whether it's defense, the aircrafts. So I think if we can leverage that part of it to collaborate through the French embassy to smaller French brands and start working with them. I'm not talking about the Cartiers. There's many brands below them. And if we are able to once again partner, collaborate, whichever way with those, I think we will start learning the skills. And then of course it's our mindset to scale it up. There may be some opportunities of some of these brands wanting to come to India to sell to the domestic market, because that is a fast growing market too. So they would definitely need a local way. So I would say the opportunity to either acquire or collaborate and think a little bit out of the box, rather than saying, okay, let me just open one more factory with the larger companies. Think a little bit different. I think the world is your landscape. A lot of us have the money, but are struggling for the business. And I'm talking about larger diamond companies and larger jewelry companies. The other opportunity is to invest in innovation. So I would say accelerate that. While some of these companies have been investing, we need to go faster. I'll talk a little bit about innovation and maybe in text of automation. So there needs to be a larger push in terms of automation, and we are so just used to adding, okay, add another 100 people and we'll figure it out, add another 50 people. I do feel mechanization, automation, there's a lot of scope in that. And it's not as expensive as we think it is. So I would say that would be another opportunity that would make us far more cost efficient and probably will lift our quality as well, the automation part of it. There are opportunities to collaborate with other industries. We've done, I think it came out in the press about wearable tech. So we know that wearable tech will become even bigger. So why not collaborate with other industries to kind of enhance the wearable tech part of it? And I would say, whatever the case, make sure that we are continuously upgrading quality, because just staying there, we are actually going behind. Everything, whether it's the car is becoming more, I mean, today's cars, if you see, I would say are like, the car with a mid-level also has majority of the features of the better level car, maybe not the engine power or whatever. So I'm saying for us also, we need to keep on upgrading and pushing our levels. And I think my nutshell message to the larger companies, or even for our own selves, would be that, we need to learn from some of our Indian counterparts. We've seen Jaguar Land Rover take up and just move, take a leap in the auto industry. You've seen Mahindra and Mahindra XUV 700, incredible quality, great value. Maulik, you shared about, somebody in the other industries also. So it's not uncommon for an Indian company to acquire a foreign counterpart these days. And thanks to some of our other, Indian companies who have shown us the way. So I would say be bold, go out there. Acquire companies would be a greater opportunity as well. And of course, the most important part of that is also transfer that learning, that effect to our own setup here to upgrade ourselves, whether it's in innovation or quality. So that's my summary for a larger company. I think for a mid to smaller size company, sometimes you may think, all this talk of acquisition is too far for us. How is it even possible? So my thought to a small or a mid-sized company would be play your own game. Play the game that the bigger companies don't want to play. So for an example, um, I've seen some of my friends and family do a great business, let's say in custom jewelry. Some of the bigger companies are not comfortable. It's too much pain, too much effort to do this kind of a business. So I at least know 2 or 3 companies who are doing a fabulous job, finding their niche. My point being, whether it's custom is just an example, but find your own niche and then really penetrate it hard. Some people are doing a great job in attracting smaller customers in and around the world. It could be Europe, it could be other areas. The larger companies don't want to serve these guys. They don't have the time or the patience to serve, few 100,000 customers. But there is a large business and large profitability in that as well. So I'm saying play your own game, make your own rules. Don't play by the game some of the bigger companies are. I would say that's a big opportunity. I would say definitely invest in tech. We see when we are roaming around the shows, a lot of mid-sized companies from different countries, and I wouldn't even only say China. I think Thailand is doing an amazing job as well. The newcomer, the dark horse, is also Vietnam, also doing a wonderful job. So I do see that some of these mid-sized companies really stepped up on their quality. And once again, I don't believe in today's time the tech is that expensive. Uh, let's say there's an automatic wax setting machine, for an example, right? We're used to doing wax setting by hand. It's not a ridiculously priced machine, uh, or the likes, right? So uh, once again, I think the opportunity for some of the small to mid-sized companies, the European space, in terms of, I just mentioned the brands and the better quality. I think for larger companies to move, sometimes, they're not as agile. So I would say if the mid-sized companies can basically identify carefully a niche and then just penetrate that. Of course, goes without saying, quality needs to be right up there. No excuse for having your quality low, otherwise you're never going to get any bigger than that. And I do believe also there's enough money available. If a company is well run, well operated, there's enough investors available to also take it to the next level. And I would say some things from my perspective should be common as opportunities, whether doesn't matter with what size you are. And that from my perspective should be strategy. Who do you want to be? In that sandwich, are you really looking to address? And we have some companies who have such clear strategies. I can see again some of our counterparts very, very successful, and saying we want to go after brands. But then you need to live, eat, breathe, sleep the branded part of the game. If you're going to be a silver and a lab player, massive business possibility there. And that's a good change. And, we should be thankful once again to our diamond and lab grown brothers. Is because of them, we have such great availability here. That itself is an advantage that we have in the studded jewelry business. So I do feel my first point common across the company should be very, very clear strategy of who you want to be. And only then, once you're clear about that, do your study a little bit, travel a little bit, and you'll find your calling, so to say. And only after that, because everybody has limited time, money, resources, doesn't matter what scale you are, because you'll be taking risk also of that scale. So I would say pick your strategy very, very carefully and then go all out behind it. That would be a common thought process. Second would be upgrade. I don't think there is any choice but to upgrade. Once again, whether it's skills, whether it's tech, most important mindset. A lot of people feel, for example, the lab is, it's doing this and that. Well, you and I can't resist the laboratory grown diamond business penetrating it. So rather look at the way some of these brands do. And I don't mean that you have to be a brand to think like that, but I want to share this one example. This is my favorite example. Let's say we have been talking about lab-grown diamonds falling in prices crazy, right? So we're saying that, oh, this is really impacting everybody. But I'm saying at the same time, when the same laboratory grown, the LGDs are falling, we are seeing somebody like a tag, the tagger, the watch company, innovating incredibly to create a very unique lab-grown product from the same material and selling the most expensive tag ever. So isn't it mindset, right? So I'm saying it's the mindset that precedes the innovation and precedes that. Where do you really want to position? With lab-grown, the opportunities to innovate on the material, on various parts of the thing. And once again, there are a few companies who are doing a brilliant job at it. But I'm saying it's only few. I think if more companies start thinking and choose their battlefield carefully to say, I'm going to be crazy innovator on the lab front, or I'm going to be like a very niche player doing like the best custom business, doesn't matter. I think, it's important that we upgrade and think of that innovation also very strategically. Last point I want to make on the opportunities is that I do believe very much in the power of the ecosystem. So when I say an ecosystem, I mean that, why do businesses develop in clusters? If you think of it, that SEEPS is a cluster, and suddenly you'll see that getting successful. You'll see the MIDC area just outside SEEPS also thriving in jewelry. So it's a cluster, right? I do believe that once the better end, let's say 5 companies start getting into the better end business, somebody has collaborated with a French company or an Italian company, and products are starting to be made here, you'll suddenly see the ecosystem being lifted. Because somebody moves from here to there, transfers the knowledge, transfer the understanding. I believe that's happened very strongly in China also. It's happened whether it's Surat as a cluster for the diamonds, whether it's SEEPS MIDC as a cluster for jewelry. So I do believe that once we, individually larger companies, their opportunities, mid-sized companies, their opportunities. Once that starts happening, you'll see a very interesting shift in the ecosystem. Within a decade, you'll see like 50 companies being able to work in luxury, but those 5 need to make that defining step to build that ecosystem.
Excellent. I think Bobby Bhai has created the world of opportunities, and from there I'm going to come to the real challenges on the ground, and let me come to ED with those challenges and how is council getting ready or being future ready. And a couple of things that I'll point out, and maybe ED you can further expand on it. One is the availability of the raw material, that is gold, the entire gold ecosystem, how that is shaping up, which is critical to the manufacturing process. And what are some of those other challenges? He talked about ecosystem, he talked about industry clusters, he talked about the entire infrastructure. What are some of the other challenges, and how council is getting ready, how the trade is getting ready for grabbing this opportunity?
See, Maulik, what just now you have heard, what Bobby Bhai is telling is, one is the scale and one is the, of course, the value. So if we are between the scale and value, if you are sandwiched between the two. Now, scale is China and value is France. If I, what he has told, just if you want to go there. So the scale, if you want to have the scale, you have to have the infrastructure. Very simple. And the policies behind that. So one of the things just now, as we have mentioned, is that the raw material should be available very, easily here and at the price what the international guys are having. I'll just give you one example. You have talked about gold. Of course, duty-free gold is, of course, if you are exporting jewelry and gold is the main component, the main value component there, you should be getting it at the price what, let's say, somebody in Dubai is getting or somebody in China is getting, without the duty component, without the logistic component added to it, isn't it? So this is the most important part of it. That is one of the issues what we are working with the government continuously. And of course, when you want to have a gold like scale, let's say somebody who is buying a ton of gold or somebody who is buying a kg of gold, there can be difference, isn't it? So this is one of the issues what we are working with the government very assiduously, is that you make the gold freely available to our manufacturers at all levels. See, a small manufacturer may be having a different kind of requirement, and studded jewelry the person has a different, and a plain jewelry component has a different kind of requirement. So that is one of the issues what we are fighting, because the gold is canalized. Now, why I am talking about this, quantity, Because there are two ways you can get gold for the exporters. One is through the nominated agencies, another is with the import authorization, so that the large quantities can have it. So that right now, that impress authorization is not permitted in India because of certain issues what is going on. In, let's say, in nominated agencies also, they are, of course, to an extent, they will give the gold if it suits them. And then, getting the duties, getting the guarantees out, etc. These are a huge ecosystem. We are reaching there. So this is one of the issues. And the second issue, what we are telling, let's say an exchange. I'm just giving you, let's say if you're in New York or if you're in China also, you can procure that gold from the exchange. Exchange, how it helps in the end of the day is that if you have a volume and if you have a spot, so in that you can play with that pricing also, because that exchange pricing based on your volume, you can always, if the inventory is there, you can always play around with that. How right now in Dubai, etc., playing. So these are 2, 3, 4 things what we are looking at, that the gold regulation in terms of manufacturing should be eased off out of your, that what do you call a currency game. You understand, gold is a currency, so there are policies which is guided by RBI. You in your profession know it better. And gold for us, it is a commodity. We are not bothered with what exactly is the currency. We are bothered that this gold is a raw material, how to get it. That is one part of the game. Now, second part of the game is the diamonds. Now, again, in diamonds, if you're sitting in Belgium or if you're in Dubai, the entire, trading of rough diamonds are happening there, including the polished diamond trading is also happening there. Because again, of the infrastructure, the policies, the back end, etc., all those things. Again, we are trying to change that thing. If you have seen in recent times, we have told that special notified zone has come, and after a lot of fight, you will see that very shortly you'll find that again the safe harbor taxation on rough diamonds will come in, and also on polished diamonds. Also, we are trying to talk with the largest of the players, whether it is Bonus or Star and etc., or Rappaport and etc., how they can start their auctions in India or their tenders in India. So this requires infrastructure. Infrastructure is now available. You know that, of course, we have Bharat Diamond Bourse, we have Surat Diamond Bourse. Infrastructure is equally available. But at the same time, the policy should be supporting to have, the business in that infrastructure. This is one part of the story. Second part of the story, as I've told you, gold. Now in SEEBs, etc., right now, if you're looking at it, again, availability of gold is a challenge, because of a plethora of reasons, So these bottlenecks, still, if it is not going out, then you will not be getting your raw materials. So the value game is there. And, the rest of the things is, of course, the mass game or the scale. But once you talk about, let's say, when you talk about the value game, in the value game, come in. So you can experiment, and at the same time, you can, with the latest possible technology, you can experiment and you can get that the scale of operations you can reach with, let's say, the middle and smaller kind of players. So these are some of the challenges what we can talk about. And at the same time, if you're talking about the policies, one of the things what we're trying to change in a big way is the e-commerce policy. This is one area, it is one single discussion you can continue throughout the time, how India lost in the whole thing. Because we have again tracked it in terms of jewelry. I can tell you, today US is taking, let's say, throughout the world, whatever is being sold e-commerce online, 70% is consumed by US. Of this 70%, you will see that 70% comes from China only. So we went deep down at what is the reason. The basic reason what I found out is that you have a policy in US which is called a de minimis principle. So below $800, you do not have to pay any duty. And in online, it is the jeweler, the manufacturer can sell their jewelry at retail prices. So they can skip 2 levels to reach the consumer, and without an import duty. And the third thing what China has done, China Post had an agreement with US Post. So anything what is originating in China through China Post, it is reaching directly to the consumer without any checking. So it is reaching faster at a very cheap price because it is post. And at the same time, that all those de minimis principles, again, China has built up another infrastructure, what we understood, is called a logistic infrastructure. What is a logistic? I'll just give you an example. I think Bobby also here will be fascinated with what we have studied and found out. They have logistic companies only. They have created warehouses at the place of export or import. So those are sort of a bonded warehouse where, all these companies, because right now, if any US company wants to import or wants to take, let's say, Amazon or an eBay, they will be insisting that you should be having your jewelry stacked in the warehouse in US itself, because they have a specific time by which the goods have to reach to the consumer, and also in case of return, it's to come back. So China has created this buffer zone sort of a thing, those logistical companies, where they keep the jewelry stacked into that, warehouses. They get it appraised through customs, so that is waiting. If the order is there, it starts from there immediately and reaches the customer the fastest possible time. And again, if it is returned back, it reaches that buffer itself. That means that logistic, there's a buffer, which is the sort of a bonded warehouse. It reaches there. Again, it goes back inside. If there is any repair or etc., it again comes back. So these are the ecosystem what China has done only for e-commerce. And that is what I think all of us are now hearing about, the duties coming in. The China is already aligning to see that how to bypass the duty and use the de minimis. We have worked with the government very hard, and recently we have seen that a lot of changes have done. The e-commerce exports as a different category has already started. We have created in airports, only appraising center only for e-commerce. So in Bombay also it has been created, in Bangalore it has been created, Calcutta it is about to be created, Delhi it is already there. And also seems that day only we have talked to the Joint Development Commission that eBay is trying to create a hub there for e-commerce. So all these things we are also trying to align. So if you are trying to understand how the policy shift or how, let's say, will have help the entire business to grow, these are some small things we can tell you. There are other things, but these are how we're trying to change the policy. Because the government is very, at least we are seeing a lot of positive intent in the government to hear us, to understand and try to declutter the procedures and policies. But of course, there are challenges. I know Bobby is laughing somewhere inside, but there are challenges. But those challenges are something what we are always every day trying to improve. Let us see where we reach.
Edie, I want you also to cover the FTA, what Council has been working on, the foreign trade agreements with UAE, Australia. And in the meanwhile, just to all the participants, any questions you may have, you can just put it up in the Q&A box. I'll pick it up and place it to the speakers. In the meantime, yes, Edie.
So, as I have
Maulik, I have one observation.
Yes,
sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No,
Yes,
Bobby, please.
Yeah. So from the government, I think just one or two small things. First of all, a lot of gratitude. Really, I mean, government is so proactive in doing their things. SEEPS itself is a blessing, and we have the quite active involvement, whether it's the mega CFC. One or two things, actually only a 2-point agenda from my side. Help us get closer to France, Italy, and Switzerland. Through on the government level, whenever you're going, get us a few of us along with that. At that level, if we have the interaction, and I know I'm guilty of meeting the French ambassador with Sabyasachi and not being able to follow through, but it shouldn't be resting on one person. Ideally, we should go with a delegation of say 10 companies who can do that. I really believe the luxury space is the way to go, and if the government really with the wonderful relationships with France, Italy, and I think Switzerland, I'm saying because they're also pinnacle of precision and technology. So I do believe that there is things that we can do there, whether it will be in form of consultants, collaborations, whatever it may be. So I do feel that if this happens in the next 5 years, we'll see an upliftment of the entire standard of jewelry, at least by many, many companies, not by just one or two. And the second, FTA, push hard with US. This is the time. Push hard for the FTA with US and UK. This is the 2-point agenda from the government.
Yes, Edie. Thank you, Bobby, for that.
Yes, Bobby, I think whatever you have told, you will see this movement in next 3 months only. These 3 countries, what you are telling, will mount the delegation, and of course, specific objective-wise delegation will work with the government and see to that is fulfilled. Now, FTAs, you have seen that 1991, I told that liberalization happened. After that, the huge push for globalization. So the WTO came in. Everybody thought that business without barriers, business without tariffs. That was what was the code word at that point at WTO, and that a single country had took advantage of that is China. Rest of the countries, of course, they tried to an extent. They were successful, may not be that successful. However, right now, as we all understand, it is a reverse order which is going on. We are going from globalization to a regional approach or bilateral approach. And in fact, India has understood that one of the first movers in our country, we were one of the first movers. So we have, FTAs is one of the focus areas of the government, and we have seen a lot of movement there. So one of the best FTAs what we have signed is, of course, with SIPA. And you have seen that our exports have jumped up there. So India is now talking about comprehensive agreements instead of only FTAs, because they have understood that only FTAs does not, just duty, etc., that may not be giving. So we are talking about manpower movement, we are talking about service movements, we are talking about investment. So together, investment is one big area. What you will see that how Dubai, etc., is investing here, and our people are investing. So this is one of the areas also they are looking at how this can be facilitated. Facilitation in terms of investment, in terms of business, reducing the tariffs, and in terms of manpower movement, all this together is comprehensive agreement. So first they signed with UAE. After that, we have signed with Australia. And what are on the anvil, I can tell you, UK, of course, due to the government, changing there and etc., all these things. But you have already seen that the UK Prime Minister has announced from January itself the next round of discussions will go on, and we understand that is very close. India is very close to having an agreement in that front, of course. And we are also, negotiating with the GCC, the entire GCC as a block after UAE, whether we have done with Oman, but we want to expand it to the entire GCC. So that as a market will grow. India is into very advanced talks with EU, the entire European Union, bearing, of course, UK also. So UK and EU together, it may happen, the way we are looking at it. And of course, the wish list, what I understand is US, but US is US. You understand, we are hearing the counter voices there. So I have my doubts, but okay, talks are talks. That much I can say you. But UK, European Union, and of course the other parts of the world that will be done by India. There, India has one word very strong now, that we are trying to negotiate with the consuming countries rather than our competitors, manufacturers like ASEAN and etc. So that way, these are the two agreements what you can see that it can happen very fast: GCC, UK, and the European Union.
How about Canada, ED? There's a question from the user.
See, Canada was about to be signed. In fact, when we last did it, everything was done. After Australia, it was about to be signed. But after that, the relationship with Canada, the Canadian government, etc., nosedived, etc., that is a dampener. If in the near future that relationship, political relationship goes well, then with Canada it can be signed in the jiffy, because Canada has already agreed in business front in everything. That I can say.
Got it. I'll pick up one question for you, Bobby Bhai. Can you share some use cases how we can apply AI and automation to our industry? And I know we are just 1 minute, so we'll quickly take up that question.
Okay, I think in design there are companies starting to use AI quite a lot. So you put in some thoughts on the AI, and it'll give you design variations of what you need to. So what you could design with a designer, that could be done, and it'll only get better. So that would be one use. Second, I just shared earlier saying, for example, it's automatic wax setting. They're able to use multiple stone sizes. Of course, you may need some manual intervention after that, or some preparation. In terms of mechanization, there's a great polishing equipment out there, which is mechanical polishing for that. So maybe separately, whoever wishes to connect, I'm happy to share. But it's starting to happen. But if you watch that space, there will be radical improvement going. So what we're talking now and a year later could be dramatically improved even.
So that was a question from Anuvi, and we don't have any further questions. But one thing which I'll say, I mean, I have many more questions, but we haven't completed. I think we are hitting the timeline. Just to quickly sum up very clearly, and Bobby, I think the picture that you created about the opportunity, it's one of the exciting times for the jewelry manufacturing sector, a vibrant space. I compare from what ED said and what Bobby you said about the evolution, similar to what all of us have experienced in the IT space, from the days of body shopping, the back-end solutions, moving up the value chain, and today we talk about a global capability centers where the mind is here in India. And then you compare that with the jewelry manufacturing, from a cheap labor to a manufacturing skill set to an engineering skill set to a high value added luxury brand. I think there is a lot more with us, and clearly complementary to that is the local jewelry market, which is really, really very strong. We all have experience in the stock market. At least now the G&J sector is the darling of the investors. The kind of return that the companies have really, and that enables a risk capital. So a lot many entrepreneurs now can raise capital for fulfilling their aspirations on the entire expansion and the growth. So I think all of that is really shaping up quite well. And we have a lot many subtopics on this entire space, and we continue with this series. And I think one of it, which ED I talked to you about, is the IIBX piece and the gold. I don't think that today we have really elaborated much on the gold ecosystem, though I would have liked to, but we'll pick that up as a separate topic. And I will speak to IIBX MD and have a separate knowledge session. But indeed, thank you so much. It was really, really insightful. Okay, one last comment has come. Let me just pick that up. Exploring untouched diaspora countries can open new markets for Indian wedding jewelry, which is in high demand due to cultural, traditional influences. It is how we can approach this, identify untapped markets, focus on countries with growing Indian communities. I think this is exactly similar to ED, what you just said in our separate talk, that once you open up the Indian retail brand overseas, the first set of consumers are the Desis, the retail, the Indians, and then it grows and expands to the foreigners. So you eventually attract them and become the global brand. I think that's an evaluation. That is from Renu Sharma. Thank you so much, Renu, for that comment. And thank you, both of you, ED, Bobby Bhai. Very, very insightful. And indeed, thanks for your time. And thanks every one of you being around for last almost an hour. Great session. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.